is Anarchist Mauser Martinez. I'm the executive director of City Fresh, which has its home here at George Jones Farm.
I'm a minor. I am the farm programs coordinator for City Fresh at the George Jones Farm. So I'm managing everything that goes on the property.
So I started with City Fresh as a low-income shareholder for our Farm Box program in 2007, and then became a volunteer in 2008, which I did for 6 years before becoming the program director of the Farm Box program, and became the executive director in 2021. But I originally joined because I wanted to feed my kids well, and I wanted to join a CSA, but they were unattainable for me at the time. But City Fresh offered low-income share prices and also accepted SNAP. So it was accessible, and it's week to week. We're growing a bunch of different stuff here right now. A lot of this land is farmed by the folks in our new farmer incubator, which is sort of like a step up from a community garden, but a step below renting out or purchasing a couple of acres to start your own farm yourself. And then I'm growing in a lot of the space that they're not. And managing our learning garden. So a lot of the crops that I focus on are more specialty crops that are not as common for us to have in our shares. So herbs, we're doing a lot of basil right now. We also have done lavender and a handful of other things. We have 2 hives of honeybees on site, and they're great pollinators. I'm a huge fan of them. They make honey, but it's been also really important to do a lot of those native plantings, specifically to support our native bees and to also make sure that we have enough nectar available that will, take care of our livestock bees as well as take care of the bees around us. Part of my role on top of, growing things here is to put on programming and events that will engage our community with this land specifically, and also with nature and farming generally. A lot of what I focus on while I'm working on my crops is doing a lot of water retention, focusing really hard on soil building. We do a lot of native plantings, and then one of the folks in our new farmer incubator, Danielle Squire, runs Archers of Acadia, which is a native plant nursery that grows exclusively Ohio genetic native plants. So not even just native plants to the region, it's specifically sourced from this state in particular, which is pretty cool. We're not using chemicals for things. So any sprays, anything that we're putting into our soil, we know is going to go directly into our wetlands. And our wetlands are one of the things that is, super important to us to preserve and maintain, not only as like wildlife habitat, but for us to use as an educational area, for us to go hiking in, for fishing, for keeping a bunch of birds and stuff around here that are going to hopefully eat the mice that are going to try and eat all of our crops. So we want to make sure that we have a really active native ecosystem surrounding us, because that's going to improve our agricultural ecosystem. There's been iterations of the farm over since 1997 and since 2000. And then after there was kind of a fallow period, farming is expensive, and farming regeneratively and sustainably and as an educational project is hard to fund. So it's had periods of greater and lesser success, let's say. We have worked with the FSA in the past and historically, as well as the USDA, but our local FSA office. Part of the property that we're on is under Conservation Reserve Program. We have given over management to Oberlin College just a couple years ago, but it's part of the property. I was super relieved to find out that they do work with farmers all the time, and that there's a lot of, our local office is just up in Elyria. It's like just up the road, and they're, they offer a lot of like technical assistance for things, and we are interested in potential EQIP money and other other avenues to support our work. We're interested in doing some irrigation stuff that might be a good fit for some of the work that they do and the projects that they have available. So we're definitely continuing to explore that. Um, and we have had dollars, as I said, from federal organizations and from the USDA historically.
One of the things that's been really incredible about farming, particularly recently, and I think going forward, is that we're starting to see a lot of turnover in terms of who is actually managing land and who is doing farming, which is very cool. And I think there's also a lot of like interest in utilizing practices that are better for our earth and our soil. And there's a lot of excitement around it. And I think that there's a lot of information that is out there. And some of that information is a little bit more reliable and some of it's more tested than others. The biggest piece of advice I would have for new farmers is to really consider where you are getting your information from, and really, as much as possible, looking towards experienced farmers and seeking mentorship from folks who have been doing this, you know, in and out season after season. The land that you have might need different interventions, might need different strategies to manage it, to build your soil than, you know, your neighbor or somebody a mile down the road, or, you know, somebody in California is not going to be farming and shouldn't be farming the same way that we are here. Transition periods are important, and, you know, it takes time to balance out, and it takes time to build all of that soil back up, and it's not all going to be done in a season or 2 seasons.
I think there's a lot of like wishful thinking when people go into farming. I know that that's how I approach my yard, and that is a surefire way to just spend money and throw good money after bad.
Yeah.
So go slower. That's probably the best idea. And it took, I think, you know, 100 years to industrialize agriculture, so it might take a few more than that to reskill ourselves back in the other direction. But we're doing our best in little tiny ways.
Thank you for joining us for this installment of Pollinator Partnerships Working for Wildlife series, and special thanks to Emma and Annikis of City Fresh for sharing their Habitat Heroes story. This video is made possible through funding from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation and support through the Natural Resources Conservation Service. To read the full interview with Emma and Annikis, or to learn more about the on-farm benefits of pollinator habitat and how you can support pollinators on your ag lands, visit pollinator.org/NRCS Partner Biologists, or click the link in the description box below. Be sure to subscribe to the Working for Wildlife email list for information about events and to ensure that you never miss a new video.